like our Halloween costumes?
We're dressed up all festive for you guys today.
Just for you guys.
You just gave me yours.
Okay.
Alright. We've been playing with these for a minute.
I think we might play with them for a little bit more until people start watching.
Yeah.
What else is there? Ooh, your turn. Gucci Bloom.
Oh, I like the little...
Oh, look at you with your little
flower.
headband. I think this one's my finger. You're killing me, Smalls.
The dark side. Oh, it's so pretty.
Peace. It matches my outfit.
Oh, it does.
Yeah.
That's nice.
That is nice.
I like it.
Any other ones?
I know. I like that.
I
one.
like the flower crowns. Pretty big
too.
fan. Cat.
Oh.
Open your mouth. You look like you should be in you look like you should be in Mean Girls now at the Halloween party.
Oh, yeah. I'm trying to growl like Dustin.
Hi, everybody. Here we're gonna finish up playing with filters. I promise.
Yes, we're gonna be done in a minute. We promise.
You. Woo! Okay, we're done. We're done. No more filters. How do you turn them off?
Uh-oh.
Does anybody know?
Now I'm stuck like this for about time. Oh, and this one changes our voices.
Oh, creepy. Nope. Nope. How do you turn it off?
So go to the very end. There you go.
There we go. Okay, sorry about that. Hi, everybody. We were just messing around while we were waiting for people to be here. We are on stools.
Yes. So if you see us shifting around a little, that's what's happening.
That's what's happening. So Stalking Jack the Ripper. We read that this morning.
Yeah.
I feel like it was a perfect October read.
It was very, very creepy, spooky, mysterious.
But, like, not too creepy. It wasn't...
It had some gore that was almost too much for me.
Really?
The end. So, think about the end of the book and think about how I was gagging. Because my cat was gagging. And I was, like, trying
with
not to throw
the
up.
mom?
Yeah.
Mm.
And, like, bits of her hair were falling out and stuff. It's a little hard for a prey.
Spoilers! Alright, so today I'm joined by Callie Sprague. Rachel couldn't be here today. It's weird doing this without her. But I'm glad you could make it.
Yes.
It's weird when I do these by myself.
I'm glad I could make it too.
What else do I want to talk about real quick before we get started?
We have so many new members.
So many
I hope you guys, if you guys have any friends or family members that are really into books, that you're sharing the book club with them. It's not something where it is, I mean, it's a closed group, but it's not
closed mostly because we just want it to be exclusively for people who love books.
Right. And we don't want people posting or advertising in the group that aren't members kind of thing. But feel free to invite whoever is interested. Because, I mean, goodness.
Right?
We've got so many new members.
Speaking of members, when I picked... so I made the book list for this year. Pretty good in advance. Stalking Jack the Ripper was not our original October book.
Oh, what was
it? Not. It was What We Saw by something Hartzler. I don't remember the first name. But anyways, I went to Barnes & Noble with my husband, and we were looking at all the books, and I saw Stalking Jack the Ripper, and I'm like, this has to be our October book.
It looks so
and
cool.
Back when we had 45 members, I talked to Rachel and I was like, hey, do you think it'd be okay? Do you think people would get upset if we changed the October book to this? And it was pretty fresh in the air.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, yeah, do it. And so we changed it, and I'm so glad it was I'm
glad we changed it too, because that it was a really good October book. It really got me in the mood for October.
Yeah.
And right here in Kansas, like,
we are smack dab in the middle of fall.
Oh my gosh. It hit fall. As soon as October hit, fall hit. And it was cold weather, it was sweater weather, and it was all the Starbucks things, and apple cider, and bonfires. Oh my gosh, the leaves are changing colors. It was just perfect.
It's beautiful. Yes, I'm so glad I live in a area
in
of
the 4 seasons.
Yes, in a seasonal country. Yeah, it just makes me happy. But anyways, and I loved that fall was also like a big theme in Stalking Jack the Ripper.
It was, and that's something I really, really liked about the timing of the book compared to the timing that we had it in the...
Yeah, it was very, the immersion.
It was very fortuitous.
Fortuitous. Look at her and her sweet words. Alright, so why don't you go ahead and kick us off with...
So I want to start by talking about the book cover. Where's the book?
I have it somewhere.
It is so pretty.
I'll be right back.
So I know that everybody says not to judge a book by its cover, but to hell with rules. We don't need it. That book just set a tone. The cover did, I thought. Oh, it set a tone for the story.
It's over by you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Where is it?
Down there. Down. Nope. Oh, it's right here. Found it.
We're so prepared, guys.
I had it on my bookshelf in here for this particular reason. I just couldn't figure out where the heck it was on my bookshelf. So, this book.
And the tools on the back. Oh, that's awesome.
What got me was a little, thing was I was a girl who loved the Ripper. That threw me because I'm like, okay, so she's the girl that loves the Ripper. So who's the Ripper? I was like, is it her dad? 'Cause she loves your dad.
So I was so skeptical from the beginning.
Of Thomas? Or?
Of everybody.
Everybody.
But I pegged the killer when she was out with Thomas looking at a body, and her dad came and got her and was furious. And was like, enough of this, and shame on you, Thomas, for letting her get into this.
No, it wasn't Thomas. It was the detective guy.
No, but her dad came and got her.
I know, but the detective guy was with her when she was looking at the dead body.
Yeah. But when that happened, I knew who the killer was.
Really?
I did. I knew right then.
I didn't know. I was thinking it was gonna be her dad. I seriously was thinking that the entire time.
I knew it wasn't. I knew who it was the whole time. But anyway, book was beautiful. I love the cover. I thought they did an amazing job.
It was written very well, too. I haven't read the second book. I know a lot of you have read the second book.
I saw a lot about the other books.
Yeah.
A lot. So that made me really happy. I did think it was a really easy book to read.
Mm-hmm.
It was a very, as far as for me, I like Audible. It was very easy for me to do things while I read it. It wasn't one of those where I had to sit stationary.
What is going on? Oh, I don't know. Sorry, there's a pop-up and...
We can't figure this thing out.
It's okay.
But anyway, I thought it was a really good, easy read. There wasn't a whole lot of concentration that went into it. Did you have any expectations for the story when you read it?
Like preconceived notions?
Yeah, or any sort of ideas at all when you opened it up?
I was thinking more of forbidden love kind of thing. But it seems dark.
So I had, type. And it kind of had this in here. I had this I can't remember the correct way to put it. Dr. Hyde and Mr. Jekyll.
Mr. Jekyll. Mr. Jekyll.
Okay. Yeah, Dr. Hyde and Mr. Jekyll thing kind of going on.
Yeah.
And it did kind of have that.
A little bit, yeah.
But that was my preconceived idea, was that it was going to be this split personality thing, which it kind of was.
I do like...
Sort of, not completely.
Back to the book real quick. I love the chapters. I listened and I read, because sometimes I can't read. Sometimes I'm at a point in my life where I can read. So I like to do both. But I love the little blood splatters at the beginning of each chapter. And I love the little pictures you get with the book as well. Let me see if I can find it.
Oh, interesting.
So creepy.
That is creepy.
Yeah.
It's a cool book, I have to say.
It was really cool. So it's kind of like almost like a historical fiction. Almost.
Yeah, and I really like those historical fictions, personally.
Mm-hmm.
If it's not going to be something that's fantasy and completely out of this world, I would pick a historical fiction.
Yeah.
But that's just me. That's just my personal preference. I know that that's not everybody's cup of tea. Let's see. First impressions.
Okay, so the whole Forbidden Love thing, I thought I was going to do that. There was something else I wanted to share, but I might have left my brain.
That happens. Happens to me a lot.
Yeah, it does. I don't know. My butt's too big for this freaking stool, guys. I'm like, that's easier. Okay.
Sorry, were we too close? Want to snuggle with me?
I would, but I felt like I was getting ready to sit on your lap, and you don't have much of that left.
No, there's half of it's gone already.
Okay, so first impressions. Okay, so book cover, expectations, first impressions of the story, the characters, narrative. Okay, so first impressions. I loved how the book opened up. This is what I was gonna say. I loved how the book opened up with Audrey.
Yes. Audrey Rose.
I kept wanting to call her Aubrey for some reason. I'm like, I don't think that's her name. Anyways, I'm really bad with names, and you guys know this, and forgive me. I'm terrible with them. Even if I write them down, I'm like, I don't know what the name is. Audrey is helping her uncle in the laboratory with, doing an autopsy on a murder victim. And that is how you were introduced into this book. Like, the first chapter is so gut-wrenching almost.
Oh my gosh. So the first chapter was, I started it a few weeks ago, and I was still having, like, all-day sickness, because I'm pregnant, if you guys didn't know. And I was fighting it so bad to get through that first part. I was, like, sitting there, and I was in the bath, trying to feel better, and I was like, well, I'll just listen to my book, because I'm here.
Yeah.
It did not help. It did not help at all. I thought it would distract me. It didn't.
Can you check your phone real quick just to make sure things are going well?
Yeah.
Thanks. Sorry, I get paranoid about technical difficulties.
Right.
That's all.
Let's see. How do I do it?
Yep, just go there. There you go.
Ooh.
Boom. Can go down.
Sorry, guys. We're just trying to make sure everything's going okay for you.
Here we go.
Let's see. Huh? So we see that is working. Event files, albums. That's not what we want, huh?
Nope.
There it is. Boom.
Okay.
1313.
Alright, it just took a little bit to find. So if you're having a hard time finding, I guess...
Just refresh.
I guess they're not going to know that if we're talking about it on here.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
Guess we won't give you directions if you're already here.
Alright, anyways.
But, first impressions, so... I was not a fan of her uncle at first. Didn't like him at first. Didn't think he was a good guy.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I didn't.
I was, like, rooting for him. I'm like, thank you for letting her express her creativity. And her dad was...
I know, her dad was terrible. Horrible. And I thought the author did a really good job of painting a picture of, I don't know, was it the 18th century?
Mm-hmm.
Did a really good job of that. I mean, with how crude science was back then, and like criminal forensics were and everything. So autopsies were like a new thing, and they weren't really smiled upon kind of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought that she did such a good job of painting this world for us. That was my thing. The narrator in the Audible book has a beautiful voice.
Yes.
Beautiful English accent.
Yeah.
Really cool. The other thing I thought was cool was the end. After, on the audiobook, she read a note from the author, and it was like, oh, there we go. I don't understand.
It just says
it
to
either.
search people. Sorry. I'm so paranoid.
We're just trying to make sure everything's working for you.
Okay.
That's
Is
us.
it working?
It looks like it's working. Let me look.
All right. Yeah.
That's you.
Okay.
So, at the end of the book, she went through all of the historical inaccuracies that she changed, like the things that she purposely changed to be inaccurate.
Okay.
Did you read that or hear that at all?
Mm-mm.
There's a note from the author, and she went through all of the facts of Jack the Ripper, the actual Jack the Ripper, listed off all the people that were arrested, the dates that they were arrested, why she left certain facts out, why she changed certain things. It was really, really cool. It was like the actual story and how it differed from her story.
Wow.
I really appreciated that.
I want to read the author's notes now.
It was, I don't know if it's in the book, but it was in the audiobook. And it was really, really neat to listen to. So I would strongly, I would strongly recommend that you listen to that or read that because it is so cool. The vigilante group that Thomas and Nathaniel were a part of was an actual thing. It was a real group of people who band together to patrol the streets at night and try and find him.
That's amazing.
And that's why she had that in her book. I mean, her dates were like a couple days off in some of this just to make her story work. But she explains all of that in the author's note. It was really neat. So.
That's incredible.
It was so cool.
I want to read the author's note now.
I know,
We'll
was
just
neat.
do that instead. There we go. Honestly,
Ha,
I
Uncle.
Uncle was going to
Yeah,
do
me
it.
too.
Me too. Yeah.
I honestly did too.
Thanks, Courtney.
So, favorite characters at all? What'd you think of the characters?
My favorite character would have to be her cousin.
What was her name?
I don't remember
Tabitha?
her name. I just
Or
adored.
Sabrina,
I
or
loved
something
her.
like that?
I loved how she was like so nonchalant. She's like, you're gonna.
She was a very girly girl.
You do your thing.
Put
Tell
her
me
in
all
her
about it.
dresses.
I want to know.
My favorite character was Thomas.
Liza.
Liza. I
Yes.
know. And?
Mhm.
Okay.
I sincerely doubt my cousin Liza.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
My favorite was Thomas.
Thomas.
I loved his.
Okay, so I think Thomas, there was like a lot of people really loved
He was
Thomas,
very polarizing.
and a lot of people really hated him.
Yeah, he was very controversial.
I didn't like him at first at all. I didn't like the way he was so forward with her in that time era and made her uncomfortable.
I loved that because of how different it was.
Yeah, I didn't like it. I didn't like it.
If that was me, if I was in Audrey Rose's shoes, I would have been like, stop.
I didn't like it at first. It took me. He grew on me, and by the end of the book, whenever they go to move on to their sequel, and he gets to go with her wherever she's going, I was like, yes, I'm glad they're together. But at first, I'm just like, he needs to back up.
I
Back up.
adore him. I liked him from the get-go. I just because of how forward and brazen he was, I just had this feeling that he was good.
Ugh.
And so I was super
I
into it.
love that, when you first meet Thomas, it's at that school, and she's posing as a boy, and she's not allowed to talk. And he is all like, "What you drawing?" You know, and he's like looking at her stuff and like examining it and picking it apart, and she's like not allowed to talk.
So all I can think of is this interview that I saw with Emma Watson, where she was talking about the difference between, in real life, she was talking about the difference between English boys and American boys, and how American boys are more forward, and she appreciates that a lot more, because it is very hard to read English boys, because they're still kind of like that. They're still very cryptic and polite, overly so, to the point that you can't ever know if they're really into you or whatever. And that's what she was saying. And so all I could think was, I bet every other girl was like, "Oh, look at him. I know exactly where he stands." I thought that was cool. I liked it. I did.
I really felt like Thomas's living situation was very heartbreaking.
Yes.
And finding out about
his past was definitely interesting.
Yeah, and you could see how it kind of like
played a part in his character.
Yeah. And
I agree.
Definitely after that, I'm like, Team Thomas. I was just like, yes. Mm-hmm. Guys, I had some crazy...
I liked how he handled his sister, and how Audrey was like, "This girl's pretty." "That's nice, Thomas."
"That's nice, Thomas."
And he's like, "Well, yeah, she is pretty. Because she looks like me."
Yeah.
I just thought it was hilarious.
Yeah.
I thought the uncle was bad. I totally saw that the dad was having some sort of mental, physical ailment of some sort.
That is not a secret, I think
that
is pretty...
I think it was just a secret for her, but she was so shocked in the book. I was like, was that supposed to be a surprise, though?
Because, I know. That's pretty...
She was so shocked. And I was like, but, you know, I mean, it's a well-known fact about that. I mean, I guess maybe not if you were there, but it's a well-known fact about the 18th century in England, that there was some rampant addiction.
Opiate.
Mm-hmm. And,
I feel like...
which, fun fact, we're having a problem with in America today.
Sorry, I'm just like...
moving them around.
Yeah, I feel like that's more appropriate. Sorry.
So, I don't know. I just thought it was, I thought it was so odd how she was so surprised by him being addicted.
Yeah.
Like,
I was actually really happy that he left to go get help.
Yeah.
And she had freedom. I was taken by surprise that her dad had set her up with that detective guy.
Hated that.
I was like, what?
All of that just, any sort of, I was actually really turned off by that part of the story, and I would just lose interest as soon as there was any talk of arranging marriage or anything like that. It just, I don't know why, but the way that she described it just made it seem so grotesque, and so that I didn't even want to be a part of that story.
Hi, Amanda. Hi. How's your baby growing doing? Hers is doing pretty good.
Yeah, mine's good. I heard my heartbeat today.
Should take it to the heartbeat. Amanda, just stopping by to say hi. I haven't finished yet.
Aww, I hate when I do that. That's alright.
Thanks for stopping by and saying hello.
Don't watch the beginning because I spoiled it a little. Just wait until you finish it before you watch the whole video, okay? Because I spoiled it right at the beginning.
She did. She didn't even hesitate. She was just like, oh my gosh, good. I'm third.
Oh, what are you do?
It's going to take a second.
I know. These conversations are very one-sided.
My eyes are like watering. LOL, okay, I'll have to finish it tomorrow.
Yes.
There you go.
Yes.
Let's finish that question of when are you due?
January 20th.
Oh,
awesome.
Lucky duck.
Yeah, you're almost there. Trucking along. Did you have any inkling of who the murderer was? Like, who were your suspicions at what points in the story?
I had a bit of a suspicion. I think I was suspecting pretty much everybody. I was pretty skeptical of every male
When she was on the boatyard, I was absolutely positive that the murderer was somebody on the boatyard.
Really?
So that guy that they were looking for, I was like, oh, that's it.
I had, for 5 seconds, I was suspicious of Thomas, only because of the whole gallbladder connection.
Yeah.
And then that died out pretty quickly.
Yeah. I wondered right at first when they were examining that first body and she's like trying to come up with a theory of who it was or where it happened, and he like ripped her theory apart and then had the correct theory because he could see all these things, and I was like, oh, it could be him. But I mean, it got torn apart way quick, that suspicion.
Every time I talk to my husband about it, bless his heart, he just lets me blab on and on and on about these books to him that he's never going to read.
At work that does the same thing. He lets me just...
but he gives his input as to, like, he's like, so it's kind of like a Sherlock almost. And I was like, yeah, kind of, with, like, deduction and, like, so Thomas is like that Sherlock.
He was very Sherlock. I like that you said that, because he did remind me of Sherlock with that.
Yeah.
That was interesting. Good deduction.
Good deduction.
Fritz.
I love that they called each other by their last name, too.
I
was so into that. I was like, I don't even know her first name.
I know. For the longest time in my head, I was referring to her as Wadsworth, because that's what I was hearing. For so long in the book, they didn't mention Audrey Rose. They just kept saying Wadsworth.
My heart just went poof when every time he's like, Audrey Rose. Thomas would be like, Audrey Rose, by her Christian name.
I know. I thought that the aunt might be deranged enough to be that. Yeah.
But they had to have, like, surgical background, and all she could do was...
I don't know. I was so... She came in and she was so hard and just strict and very, very...
I did think it was pretty funny that her embroidery skills were, like, heightened because she knew how to sew up dead bodies.
Right. Yeah. I love how they described that. Oh my gosh. It was so gross. So gross. That was so hard for me. I was sitting there, like, listening, and I'm like,
oh no.
I'm trying to, like, keep my food down.
I haven't talked to you at all about this book, so it's like, we usually have some sort of conversation, and we haven't, and so it's just like...
Stranger Things kind of ruined it.
Which we haven't even talked about that yet.
No, it's been a busy little time for us.
So that's why we're all over the place. I'm sorry, this is just our normal conversation.
I kind of suspected the uncle. Oh, sorry guys.
Oh.
That was for daily welcomes. I kind of suspected... Yes, they are. They're going to be a little late. I kind of suspected the uncle.
What about when he got arrested? Were you still suspecting him then? When he was like, when they, like, had him all drugged up and he was like... I was kind of suspecting him. I was, like, freaking out.
I
did not
mean,
like that
and
at all.
his, like, the author did an amazing job of painting a picture of those asylums and like the people that were like rotting away and like their clothes never being changed and stuff. Oh, they got treated worse than criminals. And that's, I mean...
Yeah. And it's for someone that's around dead bodies all the time and not being able to handle the smell in the asylum is like a whole...
Sickening.
Yeah.
But, sorry, I have hiccups.
You're fine.
That happens. That was something. Did you have any casting, like any specific people that you thought, like book casting wise? I do a thing where I like to cast actors or models or celebrities as the characters in the book. It helps me picture and like mentally...
Thomas, I pictured Voldemort when he was a teenager.
Oh, interesting.
Yep.
That's an interesting one. Let me show you guys who I pictured for Thomas. And I'm gonna tell you guys right now, he's a pretty boy. I really, really liked him. He was interesting. So I don't know if you guys ever watched The Maze Runner.
Nope.
But if you've watched The Maze Runner, the girl that played the girl There was all the boys and one girl.
There's a girl that plays a girl in
The
this
girl.
movie.
It was the girl that played the girl in Maze Runner. Because there was only one. And she was who I picked. When I looked her up on IMDb, she had a Brazilian and English background.
What?
Her mother was Brazilian. Her father was English. And she was born in England. And had a very similar background to Audrey Rose. It was so interesting. And I was like, of course.
I don't think he'd be that buff.
Yeah, you would. You would. Henry Cavill is who I pictured as Thomas. Michael Caine is who I pictured as the uncle.
Really? That?
How good of a casting was that?
Yeah,
I was so proud of that one.
Yeah.
I was like,
good.
yeah, I know. I did a good job with that one.
Michael Caine.
He's the guy who did Miss Congeniality.
Or Batman. He was...
Yes, he was the
He was
butler.
Batman. I'm just kidding.
He wasn't Batman. He was the butler. And some other... I mean, he's been in a lot of things. If you looked up Michael Caine, you'd recognize him. He's been in many, many things.
I could imagine him in like a leather apron and...
Yes, and being very brisk and 18th century British.
Punctual, like
Yeah.
OCD about his stuff. Yeah.
And telling her to look like a boy and shut up.
Yes.
Yeah. And you can also see him being imprisoned and deranged. He's a very good actor. So, I mean, you could picture him doing a lot of these things. Favorite parts?
My favorite parts. Oh, I had so many. I loved any time that Audrey Rose and Thomas were together. Like, I just loved, they had such good chemistry.
I literally hated it when they were apart. I hated it.
Yes.
And that's why I'm kind of excited about the second book.
Yeah.
Because they're going to be together a lot more.
And I'm like conflicted about the second book. I don't know if you guys, how many of you read it when we read And I Darken a few months back. And it was all about Vlad the Impaler and like where the myth of Dracula came from.
Oh, that's interesting.
And so I kind of, after reading And I Darken and Now I Rise, and getting all that kind of history, and it's just like a gender bend almost, so Vlad the Impaler is actually a girl instead of a guy. Anyways, so that happened back in like the 1400s or 1500s, somewhere around there. And then this happens in the 1800s. And so it's years later. So I'm curious to see the myth of Dracula.
Yeah. Yeah, because they're going to Romania, aren't they?
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah.
I'm curious to see, like, because this is kind of historical fiction, and I'm curious to see how that story kind of, in the background of that story aligns with that.
I know that there are some theories about Dracula and how the origin of that came to be was something along the lines of there was a very rare disease that made people light sensitive, and it would make them very incredibly like moody and recluse, and it also made them need a human component for ingestion. Like, I can't remember exactly what it was that they needed, if it was liver or what, but there was something in like human liver that they needed to survive. And I think that that was the origin of it, that there was somebody out there who was like that, and that he would, like, take the liver or the heart or something like that. I can't remember exactly all of that, because I wasn't prepared to talk about this book. But I think that that was the origin of Dracula. It was an actual rare disease, but very interesting.
I just finished the second book yesterday, and it was so good. It took me by surprise, and it has a lot of Romanian folklore and myth tied in.
See, I think that would be really interesting, because Romanian folklore and myth is not something that you hear about a lot.
Yeah, no.
It's not. It's a very underrated, like...
It's funny, it's underrated and popular at the same... Like, the myth...
It used to be really popular. Like, you know how zombies are, like, the thing, or they were the thing for a really long time? Like, back in the 90s, vampires and all that were really, really... But we were kind of too young to get too deep into that. So, I'm interested to read that one.
Yeah. I haven't read it yet because I tend to get stories mixed up with each other, and I didn't want to start talking about the second book when I probably shouldn't.
Yeah, I would do that too.
But I can't stop yet because we haven't talked about the end. We haven't talked about
Oh my gosh,
Nathaniel.
Holy crap!
We haven't talked about her mother.
Okay, so one thing I will say, I did not understand that noise.
It's like steampunk kind of whoosh whoosh.
The narrator
like the sound. So that's all.
The narrator did not read it like that. She read it more like a word.
Oh,
Woolchuck or something like that.
Oh.
Woolchuck, and I'm like, what?
What is that?
Yeah. I could not understand it. So that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
I was thinking of it as like a steampunk sound. But I was so confused. I listened to the last hour of it, maybe like 2 hours before book talk today. So I just finished the book today. And I was so confused with that noise. It just, I don't know what possessed the narrator to read it like that. It just drove me nuts. But anyway, the end, holy crap, I knew when her dad came and picked her up from that,
when she was investigating that body with the detective guy.
Yes, I knew when her dad came and picked her up, and she was like, how did he know I was here? And Nathaniel came out of the shadows and he wasn't looking at her. I was like, ooh, it's him. It's him.
See, I didn't think it was Nathaniel until like the very. I was like, it's got to be her brother because it's not her dad.
So as soon as I was kind of doubting it a little bit. Like I was like, well, they are following her dad. They're pretty sure it's her dad. But when they couldn't catch him, I was like, oh, it's Nathaniel.
And I did think it was weird that one lady died right after her dad was talking to her.
Yeah.
So it was like they were trying so hard to kind of like trip you out. Yeah. But it broke my heart that he has spent 5 years trying to resurrect their mother. And you get kind of a hint of that at the beginning of the book when they're having their picnic and they're talking about if you could use science to raise the dead, would you? Or something like that. Yeah. And she's like thinking about it and she's like, no, I wouldn't.
Yeah.
So I think maybe he was feeling her out to see
if he could tell her or like include her at all.
Yeah.
I just knew it was him, but I
think that's another reason why he didn't disapprove of what she did.
So the thing that I didn't know that shocked me was that he was trying to raise her mother. And the fact that he kept her body was just sickening. And he had all those, oh my goodness, you know, you hear all the time about like serial killers that they'll start off with like animals. And they'll like kill like cats and dogs and birds and things first. And you could just see all of that like when she went in that lab. When she went in that room in her dad's study, that like hidden lab. You could just see how he had started out by like mutilating animals. Then like worked his way up to humans. It was so creepy and gross. And for somebody who cuts open bodies to be disgusted and creeped out that much was just
and then
horrifying.
When he flipped the switch and my heart.
I could kind of see, and you know, I thought it was very interesting the way that they ended it, because I was very curious about that, because they never did catch Jack the Ripper. They never knew who that was. It was an unsolved mystery, and so I was kind of curious as to how they were going to close this story out without, you know, with them knowing who it was.
Yeah.
And she even put in the author's note, which you really should read if you haven't, again. I mean, it was really cool. She put in there that he was never caught, and all these other things. It was very, very interesting. She had a lot of, like, very factual stuff in there about the real Jack the Ripper. It was really cool. But I was very interested in the ending and how it like played out, how he died, and how they closed that part of their lives up and stuff. Well, it's gross.
Yeah.
She was talking about like her mom's hair falling out in chunks.
Yeah.
So gross.
So, if you had to rate this book, 1 out of 5, what would you do?
I'd give it a 4.
4?
I'd give it a 4. It had a few slow parts for me, but in the end, I really, really enjoyed the book. I enjoyed the story, and I thought that it took a lot of talent for the author to paint pictures that she did. It had a couple slow parts for me, but the talent that it took to describe, all I could think is that she had to have put real life research into her descriptions of dead bodies and stuff. So
I'm a pretty big fan of like the CSI and Bones and stuff, so this was like up my alley. I loved it. I loved it so much, and I love that good prevails in the end. Some pretty
that
great.
was nice.
That's my favorite thing.
And love triumphs overall. Yes. I did love how Thomas swooped in. Yeah, I did enjoy that.
Yeah.
I like Thomas. So I thought that was nice.
I don't think I would want him as a book boyfriend, though.
I mean, I'd take him.
Okay, behind you.
I can't move all that one.
Right there. Over. There you go. Our book of the month for November is The Wrath of the Dawn by Renee Addy.
I remember when you bought this book.
I love that book.
You started Book Channel excited to read this book.
I did.
So I remember exactly, and you were...
It was one of my first books. That and Confess was one
You
of the
would
two
not
books.
shut up about this book. And you kept telling me to read it. I haven't read it yet.
Well, now you're going to have to.
Mm-hmm.
So in case you don't know, I'll give you a quick... Oh, the cover is... I know, isn't the cover gorgeous?
So beautiful.
Oh, Reagan. Yeah, I'm so glad you like this one. If you don't know, it is about a young king, and he gets... he has a new queen almost every night. It's ridiculous. It's at the beginning of the book. The queen gets killed by morning, and then a new queen is picked. And yeah, and our leading lady is the next queen. And that's where we start things out.
Here's Renee Addy as well.
If you don't follow her on Seriously What an Amazing Read, I'm going to reread it alongside. Oh, good. I'm rereading it too. So it's been a couple years. Renee Addy, you should follow her on Instagram. She does these beautiful makeup pictures of how she does her makeup. Gorgeous.
She's a very beautiful person.
Isn't she gorgeous?
Yeah,
I love
she's
her.
very, very beautiful.
But I can't wait to talk about this book with you guys. I'll be posting the list for 2018 in the next week, so you guys can start getting prepared for that. And
for those of you who are new, we do not read a book in December.
No, we take a break.
It is just too busy with Christmas and family
Holidays,
and traveling. And
so we just let people have a break. We are planning on doing a pretty big giveaway in December, though, just to be like, Merry Christmas or Happy New Year.
So stay active in the book club. Keep talking to each other and doing what you guys
Can
do.
I just say,
we love seeing it.
You guys are incredible. Like, I get up in the morning, I look at book club, and it just warms my flippin' heart. I'm like, these people are incredible.
I love seeing you guys ask for suggestions on books and seeing you guys help each other find books. I also want to point out how we have had almost 0 problems with conflict or issues within our book club, and we have almost 1,200 members now. That's almost unheard of.
Oh, honey, we have like almost 1,400 members.
Oh, well, something like that.
We're growing, guys.
I really appreciate how you guys are so
book people
considerate.
Are seriously the best people.
They are. I have less than 100 people in my pregnancy group, and we have an issue almost every day.
Yeah.
So if that paints a picture for you guys as to how grateful we are that we don't have to intervene a lot and stuff. But I love seeing you guys ask each other for suggestions.
And I love getting to know all of you and just getting to see your faces, because that's all I really can see.
It's really fun for us.
Courtney says, I'm fairly new to this group, and I'm so happy I found you guys.
Oh, good.
Oh, good. Slumps suck, man.
Yeah, they are.
Mom groups can be cray.
They are so cray. I'm pregnant with my first, and so this is the first time I've ever been in a mom group. Holy moly. Sometimes I open up that group and I'm a moderator and I just get a headache. And I'm just like, I can't wrap my head around what is happening with you guys.
It's all them hormones.
Yeah, chill with the hormones, guys. Holy cow.
One more thing I'd like to say is,
thank you, Reagan.
Thank you, Reagan, for her congrats. I'm so excited. I've been on this
her
journey.
Too.
Yeah, I'm going to be stealing it once it comes out. Anyways, all of the comments and posts on Turtles All the Way Down, guys, keep it going. That book, I feel like everyone needs to read it. Whether you have struggled with mental illness or you know someone who struggles with mental illness.
Which, by the way, you know someone who struggles with mental illness.
It is an eye-opener. I'm going to be putting up a vlog and a book talk on Turtles All the Way Down on my YouTube channel if you wanted to check that out. It's not up yet, but I'm working on it. And
you'll post when it's up. You'll let book club know.
Yeah, but I really feel like I'm just so happy so many people have read it or are going to read it or want to read it. That means so much to me because
I know that a 14-year-old that's reading it and is just, she has anxiety, and so she's really finding a voice.
Yeah, that book definitely gives a voice to mental health. So yeah, anyways, I just wanted to throw that out there real quick because that's just warms my heart every time I see Turtles. Keep posting,
keep discussing,
keep encouraging.
Give away in December. No book or book talk in December.
Read whatever the heck you want.
Yep, and post about it.
Post about it, yeah. Show us your reads.
We like hearing about it.
And next month's book is The Wrath and the Dawn by Renee Addier.
So pretty.
Can't wait to talk about that. So thank you guys for all being here, for watching this. For people who watch this later, thank you. Please comment. We'll comment back. This is going to be posted into our group page. It's also going to go over to my YouTube channel in case you can't find it anymore because things get lost.
Yeah, I mean, it gets lost so quick.
Anyway, so that's it. So
yep, that's it.
Talking
Hope you enjoyed the book. We'll see you next month for book talk.
We'll see you later.
All right.
Bye.
Good night, guys.